Hi, I'm Doug Clark, and you're watching the Inward Journey podcast. Find out what is happening in the lives of ordinary people as they describe their inward journey to know God. If you are interested in reading informative articles about the Inward Journey, then go to www.theinwardjourney.net. Today I am talking with Clyde Ketchum about his journey as he and 70 others left the institutional church in pursuit of God.
Well, it started out probably when we came out of organized religion, and I asked my wife when it was. She said she thought it was in '88. But when we came out as a group, not as individuals. You know, I mean, we exited as a pretty large group, and there was about 70.
Okay, so there's about 70 of you that all attended the same church?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you all came out together?
Yeah. But that went south in a hurry. And to explain that, I mean, if that's what you want to talk about, if you want to talk about my journey, well, then that takes more than 20 minutes. But I could tell you a little bit. I'll tell you the front end of the deal, and then I'll tell you the rear end of the deal.
Okay.
In organized religion, and came out in mass because we wouldn't fight, and I felt like we exited very correctly. In other words, I thought we did it by the Spirit. At least the leaders, which were just a few of us that were quote unquote leaders, kind of knew what was happening spiritually. Mm-hmm. And it was a battle in the spiritual realms. It wasn't about personalities or people. We just basically got to where we didn't believe in the tenets of the faith, of what we were in. We just didn't believe in it. So we exited, and instead of reforming, which is what is the real temptation to do, is to reform what you grew up in, or the traditions that you've been in. Now, I'm talking about people that are in religion, that have been into the institutionalized church, or into the religious system, is what I call it. What we didn't do is reform. And this was over things like taking the Lord's Supper. What are we going to do? We're going to have meetings? Are we going to get a building? Because there was enough of us that we could do it financially. You understand? It wasn't just that we were out on our ear. We just exited from the deal. And we as brothers came up with the scheme, if you will. And by the way, I probably, if I was back there again, if I was doing it again, if I was where I was, I wouldn't. But now I'd probably have all the sisters there too, Mm-hmm. But what we decided to do was not do anything until God chose to do it. And that was a very unique.
As far as not establishing the organization?
Anything.
Nothing.
We weren't going to do anything.
Not even meet?
Well, we were meeting, but we weren't going to, we wasn't going to have a preaching. We weren't going to, because of the sect that we came out of was very strict in its liturgy, or in the things that you did during worship and stuff like that. We decided that we weren't just going to go from one brand of that to another and just reform a couple of things and try to do it over, to try to just start over and just put a name on the building and do that. So we didn't have a name, we didn't do anything, we just started meeting, and we decided, we basically prayed to God, okay, whatever you want us to do, show us. And we're not going to assume on anything, even though we did believe in things like taking the supper, Well, okay, so there's the front end of it. That was the turning point for us as a community.
And how many years did you meet?
Well, I'd been there about 4 years. Okay. Then we met from then until we quit meeting about Well, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago now.
Okay.
So we met a lot of years. That was in '88, and so 4 or 5 years ago, probably 2001 or something. Now a lot, and when I say we quit meeting because we had learned to listen to the Spirit. And I'll tell you this, that when people talk about going to the desert, they're normally talking about going to the desert individually. About you going to the desert and God leads you off, like Jesus went to the desert.
Okay.
Well, we went as a community, and it's a lot different from a lot of people's walks. You understand? I mean, it's just a lot different. I'm not saying it's better, but in some ways it was, because we had a lot of support. But we did learn communally, in community, to listen to the Spirit communally some. In other words, if it's you and I, then if the Spirit's telling us the same thing, we figure that's a witness. See?
Yes.
Well, if you got a bunch of people, and this thing got down to where it was just 15, okay, that could stand it.
Okay.
Yeah, because God took a lot of things away from us. And I could say some stuff that just radicalized everything. I mean, I could tell you the things that He took away, and most people don't believe it. I was telling you that some, but
I was going to ask you for an example.
Singing.
Singing?
No singing. We couldn't sing. Now, singing is something, I don't know where to go on this. I don't know how deep to get into this stuff. How did we know? We couldn't sing, that's why. And it was the everybody. Now, you had some individuals that wanted to sing, and they're like, well, now I've got a song in my heart, and I want to sing it. And we're like, sing it. And they can't sing it. And they start out, Jesus, and then it just fades into nothing. So this was hard to do, because they're singing, and then they're singing, and they both look the same, they both sound the same. One of them's life, one of them's death. And communally, we had to give up everything. We gave, right off the bat, we had a good guy, still a good friend of mine, good brother of mine now, that was the preacher. Good speaker. Couldn't have him. We just couldn't have him. We couldn't have preaching, because people hang their hat on preaching. You take anything in a worship service, you take anything in the traditional meetings of what we quote unquote call church. Any one of those things can be a god to somebody. Even serving God can be a god.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a big one for a lot of people, is serving God. Is you're telling me I can't serve God? Are you telling me I can't serve God? I'm not telling you nothing. You just can't do what you're doing in the midst of this group. Now, no matter, if you're a singer and you got a guitar, if that's, I don't know how, but you asked for example, there's an example. But he took just about everything away from us. We spent several years where all we did was fellowship and nothing else. And sometimes something would happen. We'd take the supper, we'd do something. But we could not do it on a ritualistic basis, nothing. So basically, when you go to the desert, you're just learning to hear God's voice, okay? Whether you're individually or if you're in community. So that happened to us. And so we met a lot of years, and I can honestly say, and there would probably be people that would disagree with me on lots of these points, but I was one of the leaders, I was hearing God, and that was sad. That was sad for a lot of people, because a lot of people dropped out, because people didn't not only dropped out, but when they went out the door, they turned out the lights and said, I can't stand this. It was sad in that way, because a lot of brothers and sisters just couldn't handle not going to church.